Hello to everyone out there. Welcome to my How Do You Spirit podcast. This is Lori, and I'm so excited that you have taken time with me at this very moment. The purpose of my podcast is to learn from all of you about your spiritual journeys and to share it with the world so that we can learn more from each other. There are just so many ways that we practice spirituality as human beings, and I want to hear and share your stories. You can find my How Do You Spirit podcast on YouTube in full version, and then I will have clips on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. We'll also be on Spotify and other podcast services. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited today. I have a special guest with us. I have today rapper artist Icky Rogers.
What
Thank
up?
you for joining. I'm so excited to hear your story.
Me too. I'm excited to tell it. Thank you so much for having me in your space.
You're welcome. So today we are going to talk about Vedic and Jyotish. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah. Vedic
Astrology.
yeah.
So, and personally, I've never heard of this particular type of astrology.
Yeah.
We talk about astrology, but I really don't have any idea that there are so many different kinds.
There are, yeah.
That's so amazing. So explain a little bit first, what type of these astrologies, what type are they?
So basically Jyotish or Vedic astrology is Hindu-based astrology, so it originated out of India. Pretty much every civilization, especially advanced civilizations, but almost every culture has their own form of astrology. So Jyotish or Vedic astrology is just in India's version of astrology. Basically, so I mean, it's the same concepts. There's different signs based off of a zodiac. And the signs in Jyotish and Greek or Western astrology, which is the one that most people in the Western world are used to, they're the same signs. Just kind of the dates are different. And then there's a few differences. So I practice what is called natal astrology. So it's based on where all the planets in the solar system are at the time that you're born, the planets and constellations, pretty much. What constellations the planets are passing through. So basically you take that and you complete what is called a birth chart, and it gives you kind of like a full map of these energies, and how they're coming to you, as opposed to most people just know like the sun sign, which is pretty common.
More familiar, yeah.
Yeah. So, but natal astrology takes into account all the planets in the solar system and how those energies are going to impact your life throughout your life. So, yeah.
So have you done your own birth chart?
I have, yeah.
Okay.
So initially, I guess we can just kind of get right into it. But yeah, I definitely, the reason that I love astrology, for me personally, I do readings for people and things like that, but I more so am interested in reading myself, kind of. So yeah, I use it as kind of a self-help technique for myself, more so than I do as far as readings for other people. I will do readings for people. I've done many readings, but these days I mostly just like to use it to kind of guide myself,
for guidance for you in your life.
Yeah, for sure.
So would you say has it had a big impact, would you say, on your life?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like for me personally, I would self-describe as a pagan. Definitely a pagan. I definitely worship kind of the divine forces in nature, but when we're getting into like the specifics, astrology, specifically natal astrology and Jyotish is like, that's kind of my belief system, I would say. Yeah. I definitely lean more like Hinduism, but Jyotish is kind of a branch off of Hinduism. So that's kind of how I would self-identify.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you do your chart, so did you do like a big huge chart in the beginning, or have you kind of gone along, like did you do one big chart and then like now have done pieces over time?
Yeah, so how it works is the sign that's rising to the east at the time you were born is your ascendant sign, which basically acts as it basically sets up your entire chart. So there's 12 houses in your birth chart. the sign on the first house or the first house cusp is whatever sign is rising to the east at the time you were born. And that's basically like sets up like an entire roadmap for your life. It directs the energies into these 12 houses. And what the 12 houses represent are 12 different areas of life and 12 different areas of your psyche, essentially. Wow. Yeah. So from that point, you see each of the planets in our solar system are taken into account as well, because they're always passing through one constellation at any given time. Mm-hmm. And so basically you see wherever the sign is that's rising to the east, that sets up your 12 houses. And then each of those planets each of the planets in our solar system are going to be in one of those houses in a different constellation. So everybody always has all 12 constellations, all 12 signs. That energy is always present in your life, but depending on where your planets are, that's where your energy is going to be more focused. It's going to be more of a focal point in your life. So, for instance, if the sun is passing through Leo at the time you're born, then you're a Leo sun. But if the sign rising to the east in the hemisphere at the time you're born, that'll be your rising sign. So they're different. And then the moon is transiting through a different place as well. So all that's taken into account, and the planets represent something different as well. So each planet represents, again, kind of like the houses, represents a different aspect of your personality, a different aspect of your psyche, and just different energies in the world in general.
That's incredible. That's like a ton of information.
It is, yeah.
To remember. So how long, what made you, I guess, when did you start this? Like, what would you say? Like, how old were you when you were like, ooh, I'm super interested in this and I'm going to do my own chart? And
so I grew up in a household where my mother grew up LDS and my father was Baptist, Southern Baptist.
Okay.
And so I grew up kind of in a Christian household, but I never personally it just never resonated with me, Christianity, or really any of the Abrahamic faiths, Islam, Judaism, or Christianity. None of those really resonated with me. So I was always kind of looking outside of that growing up. And I was always a person growing up where I really lived heavily in the realm of imagination.
Okay.
I mean, all little kids have a vivid imagination, you know what I'm saying? But that's something that I never grew out of. And so nature and imagination were two things that really have always stayed with me. And so growing up, I didn't study astrology at all.
Okay.
Didn't even know anything about it until I was about 17. And for some reason at that age, I just became super curious about developing my own philosophy on life. Kind of, you're exploring more. I was about to graduate high school, and I remember I would go to Barnes & Noble all the time. I would sleep school.
That was your deal.
I would sleep school and go across the street and get like something from Starbucks and get a coffee and look through books. And for some reason or another, I stumbled on a book about birthdays. I think it was called The Big Book of Birthdays or The Big Book of Relationships. And so I just kind of started to look through it and look up stuff about my birthday. And then from that, I got into just basic sun sign astrology. But really nothing in depth, just kind of basic horoscope stuff, the type of stuff everybody sees.
We see all the time.
All the time, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I got into that a little bit later in high school and then kind of just put it down. And then around the time I was 24, I would say, I had some experiences happen in my life, some painful experiences that really challenged me to, like I said, develop my own philosophy and really kind of decide for myself, what I feel the reason is that we're here.
Yes.
And so because of those painful experiences, like I said, I've always been someone who's a searcher, a student, I've always tried to find hidden knowledge or higher knowledge. I've just always been interested in it. But 24 was definitely the age because of those painful experiences where I really had to look inside and then from a psychological standpoint. And then from that point, I was like, well, that can only take you so far. Mental health, things like that, which are very important.
Of course.
But I also was like, well, I'm a spiritual person, so I have to develop my spiritual philosophy as well. And so because of those painful experiences, I really just kind of wanted to know where I stood from a spiritual perspective. And because of those previous experiences I had had with just browsing through those books at Barnes & Noble, I was like, well, that kind of resonated with me. So let me jump into that and see what I can, uncover. And just from there, it's been a journey. Yeah, it's taken off.
That's crazy. So I feel like that, those books you stumbled on.
Yeah.
Probably weren't so much a stumble. I think they were there for you at the time.
Yeah.
And so you could explore and find out more, learn more about it. So do you read books today? I mean, you sound so knowledgeable, like you about all of it. Do you still explore, or do you kind of have
all the time? I like the gurus that I studied with. Once I did get super into Jyotish and just basic astrology, I still will consult with them sometimes, and then I'll always go back and read things that I read previously just to keep that foundation strong. So yeah, it's a constant journey with it. I'm always learning, but I'm definitely at the level now where there's not too much more foundationally about it that I could learn. It's just more like different perspectives on it kind of thing. Okay. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
So have you kept a journal all this time of all your, I guess, your maps or your,
I've kept other people's readings. I still have all the readings that I got from my gurus and stuff like that, and all the early readings that I took of myself when I was first getting into it. I haven't kept a journal though. I probably should have.
That's probably a good idea. Yeah.
But as a musician, I mean, songwriting and releasing music is kind of my way of journaling. I always felt that way. You know what I mean? It's a way for me to really analyze how I was feeling and what I was feeling at that particular time in my life. So I haven't kept a traditional journal, but
it's in your music.
It's in my music.
So then I would say, maybe would it be okay to say that has been a big part of your music?
Absolutely. Yeah. As a musician, even naturally as a person, I mean, I make rap, I make hip hop, you know what I mean?
Yes.
But it's really hard for me not to imbue some kind of spiritual underlying philosophy in pieces of my music. It's not going to be the whole thing, you know what I mean? Because I still keep it, cool. But definitely cool. I will slip different things in. Like one of my most popular songs, and really a song that kind of boosted my career, at least locally, was a song I have called Birth Chart.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So, I definitely will implement it when I can and when it fits my mood or whatever. But yeah, it's definitely I don't think you can, as a spiritual person who practices, I don't know. I don't think you can separate the two when you're really, really into it,
Yeah, I would agree. So how many readings have you done for people? Birth charts have you done for people over the years, would you say?
I would probably say close to 100.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because there was a while where I was just doing it. I was working for a website, and so I would just do it for people working for this website. So people would just randomly from all around the world,
oh, wow,
pay, and then I would give them a reading. But I personally find that, like I said, with astrology, there's not you can go to astrology school. There are schools and stuff. And I studied with a teacher.
Know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Basically to become a professional astrologer, but I kind of shy away from that. I don't really feel like it's my calling.
Okay.
So I do personal readings at this point. If someone asks me, then I'll definitely give them a reading. But otherwise it's kind of something that it's like a hidden talent. I'm just I just kind of keep it to myself and use it as my personal roadmap, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But there was a while where I definitely was doing just a lot. Yeah.
And how long does that take you to do that?
It depends on the person. If it's a friend or something like that, then I take my time with it. When I was working for the website, I had deadlines, so I couldn't take as long as I wanted. But usually, on average, I'd say it takes a couple days to of focused, reading. It's not like I'm channeling or anything like that, but just pulling up their chart, recording the different aspects of their chart and then creating like a document for them to read alongside the recording I give them. Yeah, it takes about 2 days, I would say.
Wow, I might have to hit you up.
Yeah, do that.
I'm very intrigued now to see what something like that, what that would look like for me and how I spirit, you know? Because I'm the intuitive, the energy.
Yeah.
Of course, I can't do a reading on myself.
Yeah.
But I do talk to my guides, my angels a lot and get messages from them. So I would love that to see how that fits into to me and how I spirit.
Yeah.
You know, that's crazy. So what else can you tell us about this? Sorry, guys, I have to keep looking. And Jyotish, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I got to make sure I get that right.
Well, I mean, for some people, so it's not going to resonate with everyone. You know what I'm saying? Nothing is ever universal. For me personally, the reason I gravitated towards it was because when I did pull up my birth chart, I mean, have you ever heard of self-fulfilling prophecy? You've heard of this, right?
Yeah.
So, like I said, I didn't pull up my birth chart for the first time or get a birth chart reading until I was 24 years old. So I'd already lived a little bit of life. You know what I mean? You kind of know who you are at 24.
Yes.
You have a pretty good idea. And so early when I got into it, or not got into it, but when I kind of started around the fringes to pick at it, my father had always imprinted this idea of self-fulfilling prophecy in my head. So, you know, I kind of was like skeptical. But there was just things about my birth chart, about a birth chart reading that resonated so strongly that were so specific. I'll give you an example.
Okay, yes, please.
In my chart, so the moon in astrology represents something specific. It represents your internal self, like your feelings, not the person you are to the world, but who you are inside. Sometimes that can align, you know, but for most people, it's a little different. There's going to be a little difference there.
Yeah.
So for me, when I pulled up my birth chart, it said that my moon was going to be in the 5th house. The 5th house represents entertainment, creativity, children. And so it indicated, that was like the first thing I saw. It indicated that I would, in my life, have a focus on creativity and entertainment. Okay. That's just right off the bat. Okay. So to get more specific, it said that I will be known by 2 names. And I have 2 names.
Yes,
I have a stage name.
I'm getting the chills right now.
And my regular name. So that's just one example, like, you know, and your reading is full of these things. And it couldn't be self-fulfilling because I was 24 years old. You know, it's not like I read it from a child and was like, okay, I'm going to go do these things. You know what I mean? It was already true. I'll give you another example. In the Vedic system, there are what are called different planetary periods. So depending on when you're born, you will go through a sequence of planetary periods in your life. So it'll start with one planet, and then it goes from basically 0 to 100. Okay. So you'll start with one planet, and then by the end of your life, you'll be, depending on when the end of your life is, it'll be a different planet. So each planetary period has a different amount of time. Some are longer than others. So when I pulled up my birth chart, it also gave me this list of what my different planetary periods would be for my life. And it stated that at 28 years old, I would enter into my Saturn period. Okay. And Saturn in my chart, each of the planet has different significations for different people. So in my chart, Saturn is the significator of spouse or long-term partner. Okay. So it told me that at 28 years old, I would meet my long-term partner and that this person would work in the music industry.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not kidding. And we met when I was 28 years old.
Chills all over my body.
And he obviously works in the music industry.
Oh my gosh.
You know, little things like that are what continuously just reaffirms my belief in it. And I would recommend that everyone get a birth chart reading. Even just, there's little websites you can go on. Cafe Astrology is a good example. There's another one called Astro Theme that's really good. And you can just pull it up for yourself. Okay. For a basic reading and start from there. And then from there, I promise, like it'll pull you in, and you'll just want to know more and more. But
you'll get sucked in.
You will get sucked in, yeah. And that, like I said, for me, there's just so many little confirmations that I've received in my readings that are just, they resonate with me. For some people, and understand, there is like, astrology is not a science, it's a spiritual belief system.
Yes,
because it's been disproven as a science many times, you know what I mean? But it is a spiritual belief system, and I like to think of it as a roadmap, if you will, or a guide, a spiritual guide to the energies in your life. That's how I like to think of a birth chart report.
Yeah, I think that's great. So when you did, for instance, you met your partner and when it was all mapped out for you, did you, I guess, map that part out and then be like, oh my gosh, this happened? Or
with some of the stuff, with Jordan, with meeting my partner, I want to say no. I met him after I had already studied that portion, but it was kind of years after. And so at 24 is when I kind of first started to get into that planetary period aspect of astrology. And then I met him at 28. But it's not like we sought each other out. I didn't seek him out. Right. He just randomly came into my life.
Poof, there he was.
So
awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Because when I've had readings from my psychic Taco, she's told me things, and I usually record all my readings so I can listen to them again if or when I want to. And there's been some things she's told me over the years that haven't happened for a few years later. Yeah. And then it's like ding, 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 ding. Oh my gosh, she did tell me that. You know. So I was kind of wondering if that's kind of what you
definitely. Because when I read my birth chart and saw that part, I mean, I completely forgot about it when I met Jordan. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I wasn't even really thinking about it. Yeah, that happens all the time as well.
So the bell goes off. Like, oh my gosh, that is what my chart says.
And really, I didn't even realize it when I met him. It took me I would say 6 months in is when I really thought about it and was like, oh my God. You know what I mean? Like,
and then you're freaked out.
Yeah.
I know. I freak myself out. It's like, oh my gosh. Yeah, for sure. So how often would you say do you do your chart? Like for an update, do you do it when you feel like you need some guidance?
Yeah. Okay. So that's another thing I should probably explain. So a birth chart is where everything is at the time you were born. It's imprinted, it's stamped.
It's done.
But it's done. But there are transits in astrology. The planets are always moving in the solar system. So depending on where they are at any given point in time, the energies will change. Okay. You won't necessarily change, meaning your birth chart, but how the energies that are coming in will change. Okay. And so you can do what's called a transit reading, which is what most people use. Like a daily horoscope, most daily horoscopes from astrologers are based on transits.
Okay.
Yeah. So your natal chart is like your life map, but the transits are the day-to-day of how those things are shifting.
Okay.
And so, yeah, you can get a transit chart reading as often as you want. I would suggest starting with a birth chart reading.
Yeah, for sure.
So you have that foundation. And then once you get into that and understand that, then you can start to worry about the transits and how the planets are affecting you and the planetary periods and things of that nature. But I personally, I would say I look up my transits every few weeks. If something's going really well, then I'll look it up just to be like, ooh, I wonder what's going on. And if something's going bad as well, so I'll look it up and be like, what the hell is going on?
Are you on your path?
Yeah. Well, not necessarily am I on my path, but just like, what are the planets doing that is like bringing some of these energies into my life? Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I get it.
But I'm not the type of person, I know some people who do it every day.
I feel like that's a lot.
Yeah. For me, I feel like that's a little obsessive, and that kind of makes me anxious and if not anxious, then bored. I'm just like, okay, like right. Give it a couple weeks and see where it's at. I know I have a basic picture because some planets move really quick and others move really slowly. So there's some things in your transit report that you'll look up that won't change for like months. And then other things that'll change every day. For instance, the moon switches, it rotates, its orbit is a lot quicker than anything else pretty much in our solar system. So
Yeah.
that one changes pretty constantly, but anything else is kind of, I don't know, it stays the same for a few weeks at least.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you mentioned something about 100. Remind me what you said. 100. There was 100 different planets.
Oh no. Okay. So there's 12 houses.
I want to understand that better.
So there's 12 houses and there are, let's see, I want to say there's 7 planets. And then, yeah, the sun, the moon, Mars, Mercury, Venus, Saturn, Jupiter, Pluto. And then there's also your rising, which is a point in the chart. And then there's what are called north nodes and south nodes, which are essentially destiny points. The south node represents your past lives. The north node represents the north node kind of represents like the main purpose, the main lesson that you came here to learn. And reincarnation is a big part of Vedic astrology. Essentially, it's the belief system is that you come here throughout different lifetimes to learn different lessons. Essentially from one sign to the end of the zodiac. So Aries to Pisces, essentially. Aries represents birth in astrology. Pisces represents moksha or liberation, spiritual, the end of the cycle. And so reincarnation is a huge part of Vedic astrology just because essentially that's the purpose of...
Right, we come down here to learn, lessons. And that's what I believe. We reincarnate and we come here to learn different lessons, whatever that lesson might be, that lifetime.
Yep.
That's what I believe. So you mentioned past life. Can someone like yourself do a past life?
Yeah.
Really?
I personally don't delve too much into past life readings, but there are basic things in your chart that have indications of your past lives. And so, yeah, I know that there are people who specialize in past life stuff. I haven't gotten that far yet, just because I'm not too interested in it. But I know people not even in the astrology field, but people who can do like, have you heard about those people who can do like past life readings and stuff?
My psychic friend does that. Yeah, and we're going to probably do that as a subject and have her as a guest and talk about past lives.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting though, just like, you know what I mean, what you could hear.
Yeah, and how some of past lives that you might have had have caused fears in your current life, or how they can affect you, in the life that you're living today. So I didn't know that was a thing with astrology.
Yeah, karma is also a very big part of it. Karmic indicators in the chart, and certain placements in an astrology chart are indicators of previous karmas that you need to resolve, or previous good karmas. Pretty much any... I don't want to say good or bad, but any challenging or really easy aspects in your chart are usually an indication of either some form of past unresolved karma or good resolved karma that has manifested itself in a good way in your life. So natural things that you're naturally blessed with, in other words. Wow. And then challenges, not everything, but some challenges are indicators of things that you either did wrong in your past life or so. Wow,
I'm learning so much today.
That's
awesome.
Yeah, like I said, there's so many levels to natal astrology, and that's why it fascinates me. It's just kind of an endless world of information that you can pull from.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Well, do you have anything else you want to add?
I would like to recommend that everyone get a reading. Just start with a basic birth chart reading, at least so you can understand your big 3, which in astrology is your rising, your sun, and your moon.
Okay.
And then just go from there and explore it. And if it resonates, just continue on with it and see where it takes you. I promise it's such a helpful spiritual guide in this life. If you're into that sort of thing.
Yeah,
you know
well,
what I mean?
I think we all need that.
Yeah, for sure. And that's another thing why it attracted me, because when it came to me when I needed it the most, I felt really lost. I mean, astrology is actually what propelled me to come out of the closet.
Really?
Yeah, because before I didn't come out until I was 24.
Uh-huh.
And then once I started to get into astrology, there were certain things in my chart that were like, you need to be more authentic.
Yeah,
you need to
authentic,
be
yeah.
more open about who you really are and share, not be so guarded. And so that, and reading it kind of was like seeing my reflection. And that really pushed me to want to live a more authentic existence, you know, to want to be in line with my chart and to receive the good rewards from this lifetime. You know what I mean? To not, I don't want to say waste a lifetime, but you know what I mean?
But
to not
be living in fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's
And
so amazing.
I don't know if it'll have that impact for everyone, but yeah, like definitely give it a chance and see where it'll take you. And if you have any questions, you specifically, or any of your listeners, you know, if they write in or anything like that, I'm more than happy to answer questions and more than happy to give readings, even if they're just basic readings.
Yeah, I would love that.
Yeah.
We're going to be scheduling something very
I
soon.
got you.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, so if anybody out there's interested, reach out to me and I can definitely put you in touch with Icky. And yeah, that sounds like I'm so intrigued by it now after talking to you, because like you said, we all hear of the astrology mainstream stuff, but I had no idea.
Yeah.
That how it's really in depth.
Super in depth. I mean, you can see anything from like death to you know, the most likely way that you're going to die, around what time period. I mean, it's really, really in depth the farther or deeper into it you go. But if you're more of like a surface level person, there's some of that in there for you too, you know. But I promise once you get into your basic natal chart, you will want to go deeper.
Dive into it more. That's incredible. That's awesome. All right. Well, if you don't have anything else you'd like to contribute.
I don't think I do. Listen to Icky Rogers music on all music streaming platforms. And thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm so excited for you.
Thank you, Icky. I appreciate you being here. I'm so grateful. Thank you. Thank you for taking time.
Word.
Yes, please go listen to Icky Rogers on his streaming platforms. And we're going to be, How Do You Spirits, going to be on all the streaming platforms as well. Hopefully very soon. And sending love to you all. And thank you for listening.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.